Welcome to Inside Straight. Welcome back to those of you who have been following us. And we are picking up a following. We are getting members, so everything's moving in a positive direction. We're here at First Pillar Productions, Brandon braving the storm, the hurricane. And I'd like to throw this out there, that we're very serious about this show. There is a hurricane.
Yes.
And that is a serious thing. It's no joke. All our friends on the west coast of Florida still got time to drive over and spend some time with us. Because,
we have plenty of food.
We're on the tail end of the hurricane, but you never know. It is dangerous, but in the immortal words of Ralph Cramden, the show must go on. Oh, and here we are. Let's start with our comments.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly, by the way.
Yes, Kelly, the tech, future podcast guru, agent, and wife. I forgot your intro, but you did good.
Thank you. That's okay. All right. Our first comment is Jesse from Connecticut. Love all your podcasts. Please keep Kelly on. I rather look at her.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Jesse, is that a female or a male Jesse? That's important to me with that kind of comment. But anyway, yeah, she's not going anywhere. Thanks for the compliment. Next.
Sam from California. Thanks to you, I did not bet on Oregon.
Aha. That was a game that we felt Oregon would be looking ahead a week. They do play Ohio State this week, and we're going to talk about that game. Also, if you remember, Alabama and Georgia were also big favorites that we sort of pushed you away from. Alabama lost outright to Vandy. I could have never seen that coming. Nobody could. They're so much of a better team. It just shows you. And Georgia also, coming off of that bang-up game with Bama, wasn't on top of their game, and they didn't cover against Auburn. All games that we swayed you away from, maybe made one star, but that was good info, and I'm glad you're laid off. Next.
Big Mo from Chicago. Mahomes is the best.
Ooh. I love when they talk about him. Listen, I talk about him too much. I saw that comment come in. I was hoping you didn't use that one, but I see you did. I got him rated number 5 as a 5, so he's my best quarterback in the NFL right now. I'll say what I said last week. They need to put a dress on the quarterbacks today because I'd like to see him do what he does now back in the 80s when they didn't have every call go their way. They weren't fully protected. It's a big difference in the game. But anyway, I know he's a fan favorite, so bookmakers will get hurt every time he wins.
I just had to put that one in.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Dorothy from New York. Hope you guys are safe. Thanks, Dorothy.
Well, we are, again, we're not on the direct hit path, so hopefully we'll be okay. You could answer her, too, on this one. I mean, I think we're safe. We got our cats locked away, right?
Yeah, no, we're as safe as we can be. There's actually nowhere to evacuate to.
Right.
And the roads, there's gas is running a little short. So you want to let the people that really need it, that really are in the evacuation zones. We are not in a mandatory evacuation zone. So we have chose to stay and ride it out. Our kids are here. And we'll just see how the night progresses.
Yeah, we usually ride them out. We've had one or two that we almost regretted but didn't.
Right.
We've been lucky. And it's something about where we are, Kennedy Space Center. They chose that spot for a reason, and I think it has something to do with geographics, where the storms just generally go a different direction or go up the ocean. They don't hit us direct, thank God, and knock wood. But again, the West Coast people, I hope they all left.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And we have JD in Jersey.
Yeah.
Jets coach fired.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yes, that's breaking news pretty much. I don't know if it happened last night or this morning, but the Jet coach, a lot of people liked him, was fired. They're trying to spin politics on it, believe it or not. Because
really?
He had a Lebanese flag on. I think it was Lebanese. Lebanon, yeah. And that's Hezbollah or Hamas or one of those. So they're trying to say that was the reason. Then others are saying him and Aaron Rodgers weren't getting along, which looks like it's a possibility. But they're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, They had two horrendous losses. Their wins were okay. I mean, the wins were okay. And, you know, there was a coach many years ago, Jerry Glanville, and he said, you know what the NFL stands for?
No.
Not for long if you don't win. So he wasn't winning, and he wasn't around too long. So, yeah, he's gone. Is that it for comments?
It is. What do we know? Do we know anything more on Jacksonville? Was it Jacksonville we talked about last week? The coaches, the whole staff?
No, that was the Florida Gators, and we got that information on the way here. So far, they're still coaching. There's still, I don't want to say turmoil, but there's definitely unease in Gatorville. And Florida plays Tennessee this week in Tennessee. They come off a big win. It's a good rivalry. Generally, Florida shows up. Tennessee's probably a little more talented. I believe last week they were looking forward to this game against Florida. It's a fan favorite. It's a rivalry. I didn't handicap that game yet. Again, I only have 2 days before we do the podcast. But, just off the top of my head, I think that Florida may be able to stick with them, but I just don't know if they could beat them on the road.
Right.
That's a tough place to go play. That's Peyton Manning's old college. Yes. So.
And before you go on, I just want everybody to know, go to the website. A lot of this week's games are already up. We'll be putting more up as the storm permits. As long as we don't lose power, internet, we'll have everything up. But there's a lot up already this week.
Yes, and I have my flashlight, so I can still handicap with the flashlight if we run out of power. The show must go on. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about some of the podcasts I've been doing, because I'm going to be coming on a bunch of them again moving forward and talking more about this show, promoting Inside Straight. Without a doubt, my past always comes up, and it's always going to be part of this show. We're not ducking it. We're not trying to rebrand me. I am what I am. So guys like Larry Roller, I was on his show last night, a tremendous supporter. He, too, was waiting for a movie of his life. He was one of the greatest drivers back in my day, but he had a little advantage. He would pay the other drivers not to try. So he became a top driver. But he was talented. He was a great trainer. That's just a joke. He laughs about it when I say it. I will be on a show tonight with John Livia. Seriousness and silliness is what he calls it. I'm probably the silly part of it. I'll be on his show again, and he's a fantastic supporter. Adrian Martinez, I'm going to reach out to him, go back on his show. I got Scotty Stooch, who visited me not too long ago at my gym right here in Florida. It was good to see him. I hope I see him again. He may be moving this way. The two brothers at Millennial Choice, great show. I'd like to go on with them again and also help promote Bill Courtney, the detective, just recently. That was one of the later ones to come out. You got Hootie. Of course, we have Joe Zapata out of Jersey. I did the first one with him. I've got part 2 coming up. And tonight, I got 3 tonight. One of them is 99% Radio, group out of Texas, some family members, and most of them are ex-cops. Yeah. But they're very supportive of second chances and good causes. So I go on there.
They're very strong in helping the vets.
Yes, the vets especially, yeah. All good stuff, so I'm always happy to go on their show. And I will be on tonight at 5 o'clock. East Coast time. I guess it's a little different in Texas.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, yeah. And then I got John Livia, Seriousness and Silliness, at 5 o'clock. And I have a new one at 4. My friend Bobby Milanovic, who was in The Irishman with me, he actually played the bodyguard of the guy that I killed, Albert Anastasia. And we're very, very close. And you see him walk by, give me the look, and we went in. And
he's an ex-New York.
He's an ex-New York detective, and he was part of the team that got me involved with De Niro.
Right.
So, among other guys, too. So, I'm looking forward to that. Without any further ado, let's move on to last week's games. We'll go through this quickly. It's a segment that we need to do because even if it just helps you learn from the information you're getting. I've always said, this site is not, you're never going to hear me say, bet the house on the Chiefs. Bet all your money on the Chiefs. I'm never going to do that. I'm going to analyze the game, give you the reasons I come up with my prediction. That gives you 2 bites at the apple if you think about it. you could just listen to me, and you'd probably be better off doing that in the long run, where it comes to sports, not everything in life. Or you can take the information I put out and utilize it. Maybe you see something a little different from the info I gave you. Maybe if I said they can run consistently, that's why we like under. Some people may turn around and say if they run that good, they're going to keep getting first downs and stopping the clock. Valid argument. In college, that's very true. So you're getting info, you're getting a prediction, and you're getting wise guy plays. Nobody knows why they bet the games they bet. They're doing their homework. They got information. So we'll go through some of those. The early games on Thursday, I'm going to breeze right through because I'll say it again. Those Thursday and Wednesday night games are weird. Sometimes they look funny on TV because I don't know, it's just something about them. And we were 0-2 on the Thursday, but we came back. I always told you that. Don't let that discourage you. Sometimes, especially those weaker conferences, funny things happen. That's all I could say. Wise guys bet UCF, and we talked about that because of the Gators with the firing. It wasn't my game. As a matter of fact, I had the game very close to even, so it would have been no play to me. But once we got that news and the wise guys played it, we passed it along, and I lost on it. I had to go with UCF. A&M, Texas A&M was a wise guy game early. They won. Ole Miss was inside straights game. We thought they would rebound. They did. They won. Iowa State was an inside straight game. They won by 20 points. I think it was, they scored more than we thought, maybe 33-13, something like that. But that's an inside straight game. Inside straight and the wise guys both played over Boise. That game was 62-30, easy over. We've been real good with our overs. And the ones that we lost, I go back to say, you start the game a loser, so you're always pushing to get there. There's one we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, but that one was an easy one, 92 points. Wise guys were on SMU. We followed. They won. Same thing with Wisconsin. They were on. They took Wisconsin. It wasn't our game. They won. Northern Illinois -14. It was an inside straight play. When we played it, it was lower. It was about 13. The game went up to 14, which supported me. It landed on 14. I'm not going to get into that again. I wound up hitting both sides because when I'm down at a good number and it really goes high, they're begging me to bet the other side. I did. I caught a middle there. That was a good one. Over Pittsburgh and Boston College, that was a loser. They scored 58 points, and it was still a loser. The total was 63. Pittsburgh had the ball with about a minute and a half. They were driving. Typically, the other team, when they have a bigger enough lead, they'll play prevent, the prevent defense, and let you get down the field. But the Pittsburgh didn't react. They just didn't score that last touchdown, and it was a loser. But again, betting over, that's what you run into. Navy and Army, I can't keep talking about them. We've been on them every week. We have not lost on a Navy or Army game. Last week, I didn't tout them that big because I know what's going to happen. Eventually, they're going to get too much respect, and it's very possibly this week. Those are very big spreads for Army, a team that's, historically conservative. They run the ball, they play defense, and here they are scoring a lot of points. But you got to believe your eyes, and we had them up until last week. We have not lost on Army or Navy. Inside Straight had Western Michigan as a play. They won 45-42. They were -9. It's a loser. They won the game, but it's a loser. Connecticut -14. That was a wise guy game. We supported it, and we touted it. They won 29-20, but it's a loser. It wasn't, we had some losers last week that we'll rebound from. But we had a lot of winners, too. A lot of winners. Virginia Tech, a winner. That's another team that we've been on. For the most part, I think now we're 4-2 with them. We struggled early, but I didn't really adjust my ratings too much. Every time I went back and looked, I feel they're going to put it together. Now they're on a winning streak. They won 31-7, so it's coming together for them. App State, I scratched them out like I scratched out Marshall. I lost on them. It's the last time I'm going to lose on them. They're obviously were misrated by me, and I redid the ratings. So it's a team that, I got to put a question mark next to. Toledo won 30-20. It was an inside straight game. Oak State lost. That was an inside straight game. James Madison, Jimmy Madison. They did me in. That was a loser. But Inside Straight came back. One of their last games of the day, it was a West Coast San Jose. They won 35-31. They were only laying 3. Georgia Tech, we talked about. I said Duke is getting too much respect. Georgia Tech won by 10. They covered the spread. And it was Duke's first loss. I stated that. They will get their first loss. It was in the analysis. ASU over Kansas 35-31. That was a winner for us, Inside Straight only. We had a 4 gold bar play on Hawaii. We liked it. We supported the pros. The 4.5 point spread looked too high. They lost the game by 3. It's a winner. It's a big win. But I also played the money line. I'm not afraid to do that. On a 4 gold bar play, anything up to a touchdown, I feel like I can win the game. I did it with 10-point dogs. Of course, that cost me a round robin, because even if you hit 2 out of 3 in a round robin, you don't lose any money. Last game was a loser. It was Texas Tech did it to me. I've been on them all year. I won a couple, lost a couple. But against Arizona, I thought going into the desert, they made a nice comeback to win that game. So that was a loser. To the NFL. We had the Tampa Bay we took. We said they were a good money line bet. The game was tied after regulation. You can bet regulation only in sports. They need to do that in football. They need to add that. You could bet regulation only in hockey because when they go to overtime, it's a different game. It's a whole different ball game or puck game. Same thing with baseball has their extra innings. Now with this runner on second, that you get a free runner, both teams seem to score a lot in extra innings. So if you bet under and you go to extra innings, you're in trouble. So there's a lot of things you got to keep in mind there. Point is, that's a winner, really. In a tie, when they're getting points, they lost in overtime. I didn't see the overtime. Sometimes you don't even you get the ball back. But they're crazy rules, so I'd like to be able to bet sometimes without overtime. I don't think the NFL will ever do that. The Bears were a winner. I've been on a little roll with the Bears. Watch for our upcoming analysis on the NFL games. We're going to get them out there this week, as always. And it looks like there may be a few more from the early on stuff that we're looking at. But the Bears have been good to us. Cincinnati landed on 3. It was an Inside Straight game. You could have easily gotten 3 points on that game, maybe more. When it's around there, I told you I'm going to buy points. I'm not bashful about that. So I caught a middle there when it landed on 3. But I did like Cincy. I thought they would win the game. And I'll give Joe Burrows a little credit. He played his best game this season. But so did Lamar. He was good. Okay. I took Washington Inside Straight. I told you, believe your eyes. I watched that game. That kid, Jaden Daniels, out of LSU, will be a 5. He will be the next Mahomes. He was great in LSU, won the Heisman. He just beat Joe Burrows, and that's why he beat him. They both came out of LSU, and he had a point to prove. And Washington is relevant now. They're in a division where, Dallas, Philly, they're good, but they're not as usual where they're going to easily win the division. The Giants are even winning. That was a bad one for me. I'll get to that. So believe your eyes with Washington. They're going to be in a lot of over games because that kid's not going to quit, and the defenses aren't ready. They're going to start getting ready for his style. He can run, and he's not afraid to run. He can throw. So that was a winner for us. Wise Guys came in with the Bills. We followed. We thought they would rebound. That was a loser. We had Green Bay as a winner at Inside Straight. Seattle, I talked about it. I didn't think the Giants would go all the way to Seattle. But I did the research, I double-checked, and I was I misled you a little bit. I had them having trouble with Seattle historically. Something made me go back and look, and they're 11-11 in history of the two teams being around, because Seattle wasn't around as long as the Giants. They're 11 wins and 11 losses, 500. So, but I would still stand behind traveling all the way to Seattle. I didn't like the Giants' chances there. Okay. And we talked about the hurricane. If you're in New Orleans, if you're from New Orleans, the team can't help but to worry about their families and their properties. If that storm would head up the Gulf Coast again, like so many of them do, and not go across, they're in harm's way big time. You remember what happened to New Orleans,
Katrina.
Katrina, what was it, 10 years ago? I mean,
Not longer. But
longer than that, whatever it was. And I said that KC and Mahomie were nice and comfortable, not worrying in Kansas City about any hurricanes or anything. They had beautiful weather. Their minds were on the game. So we were leaning towards Kansas City. I don't think my numbers supported it without the hurricane. Without the hurricane, I think the game would have been a little closer. Plus, Derek Carr got hurt, so he'll be out for a little while. Okay, this week's games. Remember what I said about Thursday night games. They're very peculiar. But I'm going to give you this one. We're not going to never give a game on our podcast. That's what we're here for. But the 3 and 4 gold bar games, you got to be a member, or it's not fair to the members. It's not so much that we should give it away to you free or anything like that, but members are joining. Mm-hmm. Why should everybody else get the really good plays, the serious 4-star game? I'll tell you which ones they are. But Thursday night's game, which is tomorrow, we got 2 gold bars on the over. James Madison against Coastal Carolina. Both teams have favorable offenses, obviously, versus the defense. But the numbers are substantial enough that I put a second gold bar onto it. I think it'll be a shootout. I think James Madison wants to rebound. Coastal Carolina's been scoring points. I just don't see a defensive game. And it's going to be a fun game for the fans to watch. For a Thursday night, that's important if they want to keep getting on TV. Keep that in mind. So some of these games on a Thursday night are going to be shootouts. And that one rates a shootout. Saturday, game 159. Wise Guys got UTSA -4. We gave it a gold bar. My numbers didn't support it. The Wise Guys and me.
And you?
On game 194, the Texas State-Arkansas State game. It's a 3 gold bar play. You're going to have to be a member to get that one. It's a good play. Wise Guys played the game twice, and our numbers support it. Game 112, I believe that's a Friday night game. Under 58 is from the Wise Guys. It's Western Kentucky and UTEP. To me, it's only 1 gold bar. I don't believe my numbers supported it. And again, on these Thursday and Friday night specials, there's just strange things happen. But I got to let you know, the Wise Guys played under. Mm-hmm. Game 121. Over 46 in the Miami, Eastern Michigan game. We also support it, so it's a 2 gold bar play. We think there'll be points in that Miami-O and Eastern Michigan game. Game 126, 3 gold bar play on the Marshall, Georgia Southern game. You'll have to check in. Same thing with game 136. This is a 4 gold bar play. It's Northern Illinois against Bowling Green. 4 gold stars means the numbers are very, very positive towards one of the teams, and it's an inside straight game. And likely the Wise Guys are on it too. You'll know all that in the analysis. Game 138, inside straight game. Western Michigan against Akron. There's a 3 gold bars. You'll have to join. Game 155 is a 2 gold bar play. We like Toledo to cover the 9.5. It's a rebound game. It's strictly inside straight. It's only 2 gold bars. I say that, but it's still a well-rated game. I have them more than 2 touchdown favored, about 14.5. We only got to cover 9.5. Game 154, Central Michigan and Ohio, 3 gold bars. You'll have to be a member for that one. Game 164, we got Army against UAB. We talked about that in the opening. They are now -24 over UAB. That's a lot of respect. That's a lot of points. And you can't buck the system. They haven't been losing. But I'm fading away from Army while these numbers have gotten really high. That's very high, -24. You didn't see Army -24 in a long, long time. But if they cover that, you'll see it again next week. I'm not telling you to not play them. I certainly couldn't put my money on UAB the way Army's playing, but now it's a conference game. It's a lot of points. That's all I'm saying. It's a lot of points. I love Army too, but anyway, let's move on because it's breaking my heart not to tell you to bet Army, but I got to be honest, it's a lot of points now. Game 170. It's Rutgers minus 2.5 against Wisconsin. Inside straight, got Rutgers 2-goal bars. Wisconsin isn't the same Wisconsin that you're accustomed to. You know, where they just keep coming out with these great running backs, great offensive line, solid defense. They don't have all of that like they used to. Rutgers, on the other hand, has a fantastic coach in Greg Schiano. He was there years ago, and you saw them getting better. He was so good that he went to the pros, came back, took the Rutgers job, and Rutgers is improving again. Over the last 3 years, you see them getting better and better. They're beating good teams. They're beating conference rivals. I got them winning this game in New Jersey. Game 195, there's a 3-star or 3-goal ball play on the Minnesota UCLA game. You're going to have to check in with us at the site. Same thing with game 197, 4-goal bars. It's the game of the year next to Bama and Georgia, where we had Bama beating Georgia, and that was a high-ranking game. This is a 4-goal ball play, Ohio State versus Oregon. We talked about Oregon looking forward last week. We talked about Ohio State. So we analyzed this game. I got really deep into it because I think you're going to get a true read on the game, and I think we got the winner. So check in with us, please. Game number 200. When I say we, it's inside straight. We like the under. It's 41. So that's a low total, especially for college. It's Iowa against Washington. But I don't see the winner more than 17 to 20 points, and the loser obviously will be under that, probably around 10 to 13 points, 14 points. I like the under. You got to believe your eyes. Iowa, they run. They play solid defense. They don't let you score. They hog the ball. Washington is in the same team they were last year with that great lefty quarterback who's now in the pros. And I just think at the end of the day, halftime's going to be low, and it's going to continue right through the game. So that's it for our
recap.
And yeah.
I see that.
Okay.
So I wanted to let you guys know we are adding the email alerts. We've been testing them this week. We think we have it all figured out. In the meantime, there's a daily blog at least once a day. So you need to check that for special events like the UCF, horses, the Breeders' Cup, MLB playoffs. We are going to have an MLB page coming up soon, NBA, and college baskets. All of that, the pages will be up shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, like the baseball page, we know it's under construction. It was unnecessary to rush that now. There's only a few playoff games.
Right.
So it's easy for us to put it right in the blog. And I've been doing that. I've been given some good information. We've been on, we were on San Diego yesterday. We had Kansas City, and they're all based on situations right now.
Right.
Who, if you took a team for the series, there's pivotal games, and we'll go the other way sometimes. I explain that in the blogs. We're going to do that in today's blog for the games because there are 4 baseball games. So check in before the games start, maybe 2 o'clock, and you'll see all the baseball. And UCF is the football team. I have to correct you. You said UCF is UFC, the fighting. Ultimate Fighting. You did that last week, too.
I did.
It's okay.
I did. Well, we're here in Florida.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you a question about the shirt you're wearing.
Yeah.
In Florida, everybody talks about hurricane parties. Mm-hmm. I just noticed he's wearing a shirt that has mixed cocktails all over it and palm trees. Did you wear that?
I'm hunkering down. We prepared by getting extra scotch, extra wine, a lot of popcorn. So, so the NBA page is also under construction, but thanks for pointing out my shirt.
I thought it would
It's an old
bypass
school,
my
old
UFC.
school shirt. Yeah, so very important to get on that blog.
Yes.
Very important. All right, we're moving on to, I don't know you wrote this time, so it's understandable. Q&A.
Q&A. I'm going to pull it over because I still can't read that far.
Okay.
How's that teleprompter coming there, Brandon? Okay. Are you guys ready for the hurricane and your gym?
Okay. Well, we practically answered that because I got a lot of scotch at the house. We, like I says, we're more.
We don't take it lightly.
We
really
don't take it lightly, but we don't panic. We deal with it. We hunker down at the house. We have hurricane-proof windows. We shut everything down. We
Clear the decks.
We clear the deck, the backyard, the pool. We make sure the cats are locked in. They're not allowed. We see them flying away. So we do everything we can. But it's also nature, and like I said, we've been resilient. The state's resilient. We always come back from these things, and I don't doubt we will again. As far as the gym, my outdoor section was secured. All the kites that we have to protect from the sun were taken down. And Friday or Saturday, we'll spend the whole morning getting it back in order. That's just life in Florida.
Yes. And we've been known to evacuate a few times.
Yes.
So,
And
all
those
right.
were disasters too, because one time we started driving into it, the hurricane switched directions.
Right.
And we had to turn around and go back. And another time we were in our RV, and we were going down 95. I got tired of it, pulled in to a lot. We're ready to take a nap. All of a sudden, I hear things hitting the roof. Its branches were falling, so I got back in the truck. We drove. We made it to Virginia. We thought we were out of harm's way. We go into a restaurant, and all the truckers are in there telling, "Oh, you can't drive that thing anymore. We're in a tornado watch, and there's going to be tornadoes in this area." So what we did was, after we ate, we took the RV, we drove to a mall that was closed, and Sears had this long driveway with a garage. We pulled right into that
Offloading
mall
ramp,
with
yeah.
the walls on each side of
The
us,
cement walls.
and we sat it out and got to Jersey sometime the next evening.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Tommy from New Jersey. How about a Subway series?
That would be exciting for New York, and a lot of the country would probably like it. There's something about that. Everybody has something to say about New York, good, better, and different. Everybody likes to travel and go there. Yankees were, if Dallas is America's team, the Yankees are America's team in baseball. Atlanta would argue that both teams had TV stations from many years ago that put them on a national, even international level, like TBS showed all the Brave games, so they were a favorite. Yankees are. But a Subway Series, that would be phenomenal for baseball. It's a natural rivalry, obviously, and as a hometown New Yorker, I'd be rooting for the Mets, the underdog, like I always did my whole life.
Okay. Nick from New York. You spoke about the NFL and NBA best. How about baseball teams and players? A baseball team and players.
Okay. Well, let's start with the teams. It's, again, like other sports, it's time stamped. Is reason for a team to be the best at a certain time. And, you could argue, was the pitching better then or now? But nowadays, most pitches only go 5 innings. So now you're facing the bullpen. So that seems to favor the hitters, where they're facing secondary pitches in the middle when the stars are out. There's so much to consider. None of us watching this show saw the 27 Yankees, Murderers Row. You know the names, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, so you can't argue that. My grandfather would turn over in his grave if I said somebody was better than them. But as time goes on, there were other great Yankee teams. Now you got, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Yogi Berra. List goes on and on. They continue to be great. So I would say from the start of time till now, the Yankees are the greatest team ever, just in general. But you can't count out the Big Red Machine, the Cincinnati Reds. It's more my time. I was in the 70s. I was probably 12, 13 years old. starting to follow baseball. I remember the team to this day. That I spoke about that with Pete Rose when we mentioned him. May he rest in peace. And make it to the Hall of Fame. But the Reds, you had the Oakland A's, had, Reggie Jackson, great pitching staff. They had a little mini dynasty where I think they won about 3 World Series. So many great teams. It's really hard to zero in. Even the Mets in '86. Mm-hmm. I think they have the most wins out of any team ever. I think at that time they did, when they did it in '86. If anybody surpassed that, I don't know. But that lineup and their hitting, and they were really one of the best teams. You had Keith Hernandez, great, probably one of the best Golden Glove first baseman in history, and a great hitter, 300 hitter, pure hitter. Darryl Strawberry, for all his shortcomings, was a great ball player. His personal stuff with, drugs and drinking and stuff like that a lot of kids do. Dwight Gooden was supposed to be the best pitcher ever. Also ran into those problems, being around New York, young age, all the money. But, you have to add them into the equation, even though they only won that one World Series. As for players, I'll say it again, it's time. When they were hitting home runs years ago against the greatest pitchers that were pitching 9 innings, you got to give those guys a lot of credit. And the great pitchers pitched every 3 or 4 days. Now they pitch every 5 days. So it sort of dilutes the pitching. So it's easier for these big home run hitters to hit. They also talked about the baseball being tightened up from the old days. So they brought the fences in a little bit for the public, right, because the fans like home runs. Chicks they dig the long ball. You remember that commercial? Chicks dig the long ball. And I agree. So they pull the fences in.
You're showing your age.
Yes. So it's Ty Cobb.
Yes.
He has one of the greatest answers in an interview. They asked him, Mr. Cobb, how would you do against today's pitching? So in his southern drawl, he says, well, I'd probably hit around 270. So the interview guy said, the newspaper journalist says, but Mr. Cobb, you're a lifetime 340 hitter. He says, yeah, but I'm 77 now. So he thinks he could still hit 270 against today's pitching. But if I had to pick, it's impossible to pick one player as the best, because again, what are you going to do? Throw out Babe Ruth, DiMaggio, Hank Aaron, all Willie Mays? You can't throw those guys out. They played in a time where it was different. It was just different. But in my time, I guess I would have to say Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds. But then you're talking about, what, they shooting up drugs, not shooting up, taking HGH and performance-enhancing drugs. So that's an argument you're going to get there. Griffey was never targeted on that. Barry Bonds was, McGuire was, a whole bunch of players were. Roger Clemens was. Right. But that's why a lot of people may turn to a guy like Derek Jeter. All those years with the Yankees, never a bad word. Never didn't try hard. Didn't come up, always came up with clutch hits. He's up in the argument. He's got, next to Pete Rose, I think he is the hit king. Next to Pete Rose, he's got maybe as many hits. I have to check on that. I could be misspeaking. But he's got a lot of hits, right, a lot of years, a lot of Gold Gloves. But I'll end it with this. We may be looking at 2 of the best ball players to ever touch the field. Aaron Judge, guy's just a beast. And so is Ohtani. They're unbelievable. They hit 50 homers. They steal 50 bases. They hit RBIs. But again, they're doing it in today's pitching. So there's a little bit of an argument for the old school guys. That's it for that.
Okay. So these are going to be more consolidated. A couple of these questions I'm asking in reverse, because people asked me and they were naming particular people. And instead of asking you a whole slew of people, I'm just going to reverse the question, and then you tell us what you think. But first, we got several questions about how's the movie coming along. But they heard you talk about the documentary and also about the potential of a play.
Yeah. Well, the documentary has been something we wanted to do for many years. Kevin Kaufman, a dear friend, has done several great documentaries. I have too many to mention. I'm with him and others too, but there's never been one done on Larry Mazza, okay?
Right.
And people want to see that. So Kevin has opened up a door, and there's a potential. He's dealing with a big production company
Right.
that they want to do it. So that's very important. The play, I have a friend named Richard Haas. He has been working diligently on this for years, and I think it's coming together. He's got some people that are interested in maybe funding it on a small level to start. And you got to start somewhere. So
Right.
I'm supporting him 100%. I hope he could get it done. I wish I could do more, but I can't. I have a partner for the movie,
Right.
so I can't. That's where I'm needed. But I'm supporting Richard. We're partners on it. He's got a great premise. He's open to making little changes where we discuss things. So yeah, there's a play and a documentary also in the works. And the book, as always, can be bought at www.larrymazza-thelife.com. And read my story and you'll see why there's a documentary and a play. And Terry Winter wrote the script, like I say, almost every week because the questions keep coming for a series. He has the pilot written and an outline for about 10 episodes.
Yes.
And the pilot is fantastic. It gives you everything, suspense, a little violence, a lot of sex, some
so
humor,
mature, so
some
mature.
humor, because in that life there's a lot of humor, and Terry gets it. He comes from Brooklyn, and he has a witty sense of humor, so he gets it. The one thing I'm asked a lot, and I was asked last night by Larry Roller, is how come I'm not on the Tulsa King? Especially when they go back to New York for some episodes. And I think, Kelly, you got to get in touch with Terry and find out why I'm not on that show. I should be.
I'll put that on my to-do
Okay.
list.
Well, thank you. And thanks for asking. I hope you ask every week because one day I'm going to have a great update.
Okay. All right. Who is the toughest gangster ever?
Toughest gangster ever. Well, when you talk about tough, a lot of times in that life, it means who's going to shoot first and fastest. And they're considered tough guys.
Right.
So that's the first thing you have to. Do you mean with your hands? Fighting?
Or mentally?
I never even thought about that. You got to be, I guess you got to be mentally tough too, but I don't think they're talking about that, but that's a great point. Because just being mentally tough, you could avoid situations or handle situations before they become a situation just by having a strong mind and a strong psyche. So toughest, I'll start with a shooter. You got to start with a guy like Albert Anastasia, Murderers, Inc. They had to kill him because nobody could stop him from killing people. So they killed him. That's legendary tough. Just starting Murderers, Inc. How could you not put him at the top of the list?
Right.
But then, as years go on, my boss, the Grim Reaper, Greg Scarpa, I can say that because firsthand I saw him in unbelievably tense situations in public. Boom. Walk away like, let's go have our lunch now. And there's a lot of guys like him. He's not the only one. But I would go by things he told me when a name would come up. He'd say, oh, that's a tough guy. I'll use Junior Persico, for instance. When we talked about him, he said he wasn't called a snake for nothing. We talked about somebody like Frankie DeChico. Walked in our club one day. I knew he was a Gambino heavyweight, and I knew the neighborhood respected him. When he walked out, Greg said, that's a tough guy. He wanted me to know who the ones were. When other guys came up, and I'm not going to start putting guys down, but he'd roll his eyes. He's what it means he got sucked along by his daddy or his uncle or somebody, and guys around Greg's crew, like Greg Jr. and all of us, we didn't have that luxury. We had to prove ourselves at a young age. So toughness it's a tough word. It's a tough word. But guys with their hands, there were some good fighters. There were some real good fighters. Too many to mention. But I think when you're talking about the toughest gangster ever, you're talking about shooters.
Okay. All right. Who's your favorite gangster ever?
Me. No, that's terrible. And listen, that wasn't scripted. My favorite gangster, I've always said Meyer Lansky.
You have said that.
I've said that a lot. He wasn't a made guy, obviously, but he was a gangster that started way back when they were inventing things, like the numbers. He was part of the black neighborhoods might have beaten him to it, but he organized it and made it a big, big earning racket. He was part of starting sports gambling with the Lefty, the guy's name was back then, Rosenthal.
Oh, yes.
No, Lefty Rosenthal was De Niro. But there was another one, he's portrayed in movies too. He fixed the World Series, old Jewish gangster. And he had a run, unlike most gangsters we know, in and out of prison, eventually finishing up with a life sentence somewhere along the way, or doing life by consignment, like some of my friends. They're just in and out, in and out, in and out. But I like Meyer Lansky. He made a fortune. He was part of Vegas opening up, becoming what it is. He did so many things, and I always thought he earned about as much money as any gangster ever until some guys later on, some right in our own family that just made tons and tons of money. So I always had that respect that he didn't do time in prison, big time. He was a creator of this whole thing, along with Luciano. I love that movie, Mobsters. It tells you that history. But I got him up there, and I also like Joe Bonanno for the same reason. Outside of the drugs, which I found out later on, they were very big into that. Who knew? He was another one. He didn't do a lot of time. He died the boss. He was in Arizona. He was put on a shelf because he wrote a book and everything. But before that, this guy had an incredible run, no jail time, making a fortune. So, it's easy to say John Gotti, but to me, he wasn't good for the life. I can't say my boss anymore, who might have been at one time, but we know that he turned out to be an informant for all those years. So, fictional, it's Sonny. Sonny Corleone. I even named my cat after him. That's one true. Of my cats. That's so, true. Yeah.
Okay, best hit ever.
The best hit ever. Sonny Corleone, the toll booth.
Yeah.
No, but the real ones, you got to put the Castellano hit at the top of the list. Obviously, we talked about Albert Anastasia. He's at the top of the list. Galante, he died with a cigar hanging from his mouth, where they pictured and publicized. Nicky Black, in the top 10 hits in New York history, Nicky Black is number 4. Crazy Joe Gallo's up there at the top of the list. Obviously, we talked about Castellano. He's up there. I think Anastasia was 3, and then Nicky Black was number 4. So it's arguable. I mean, the best hit ever, there was some hits that we did that I think were the best hits ever. How we got away with it, and just but that was Greg's crew. That was Greg and Greg's crew. We did the impossible when it came to that.
Okay. Do you agree with gambling being legalized?
Yeah, either way. Both words work. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And will it hurt the street guy?
Well, first of all, I was a proponent of legalized gambling when I was an illegal bookmaker in the 80s. I thought it was silly. They legalized booze. Fast forward, they're legalizing pot. Smoking's legal. I mean, they legalize things that are considered harmless vices all the time. Then I go to prison and I start reading about Costa Rica and offshore sports books, billions. And I'm saying, why doesn't the United States make Las Vegas the centerpiece of the world instead of Costa Rica? Let bookmakers go to Vegas. Let them pay a licensing fee, set up, and let the government make money on it. There's nothing wrong with that, you know? But they get greedy. See, the government, this is where I got to be careful, because I was in prison and I saw the government firsthand. They're hypocritical, and they're greedy, and they are as much of a gangster as we were in their own ways. Okay? Anybody that doesn't see that and talk about murder and killing and stuff, don't be naive. Like Michael Corleone said, who's being naive now? These things happen in the real world. So, but to get back to the question, I was behind it from back then. And it will never knock out the street guy because of the government's greed. Okay? Right. They won't let you write off your losses, but they pull the tax out when you win. It's hard enough to win. Now you're not even getting a full price. They're never going to give you credit. They're always going to want you to put up a credit card or a bank or have a paper trail. A lot of people don't want that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying just for tax purposes. You can file as a gambler. You can file and avoid that problem. I know a lot of people in my lifetime that did or do. But you still have the discretion. Maybe you don't want your wife to know. Maybe you work for a company that would frown upon you being a big gambler. Right. It's not really their business if you're not hurting anybody and and so no, it's never going to hurt them. They're always going to be around. They're always going to be there. But I think the government should learn and do it the right way, where they are eventually like Vegas. Let them be the headquarters of the world. Right. What better place?
Right. Okay.
So that's that.
Yep, that wraps up our questions.
That wraps us up. I love the questions. I'm glad you're putting them together in a Reader's Digest form now, instead of asking 10 different questions about the same subject, yeah. And log in. Like I said, we have a lot of 4 and 3 gold bar plays. I want you to get in there and see them. We're at InsideStraight.com. And remember, when you're a member at Inside Straight, you didn't have to kill anybody. You became a good fellow. You became a made member of Inside Straight. I can't stress that enough.
There's no help
every
for you.
Christmas, I told Larry Roller last night, every Christmas we're going to have a big party for all the members, just like we did back in the old day. The Colombo family, we had a big Christmas party. And once in a while, somebody got a little extra gift at that party. They took them to the back room and they waved that magic wand. So we're going to do that for our members. We're going to have a big blast somewhere. And we're going to elevate guys. We're going to bump them up.
You've been watching too much TV.
Yes, I have. And I'm getting a little punch drunk with this hurricane. But once again, please join if you haven't joined yet.
Yes.
Log on, get the info, and be a winner.
Bye.